All right, let's run this back. Hey, how's it going? I'm Keith here at Sports Vibes TV, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Stephen Fox. Foxy, how's everything with you?
All is good, my friends. Salute to you. Salute to the chat. Salute to the SV Nation. We're a little over 48 hours from our first preseason game. Hallelujah. Can't wait to chop it up with you and the SV Nation. How are you doing now that the audio's on?
I'm doing much better. We got up to a slow start, but we'll make up for it with a lot of content to discuss. New York Knicks basketball is only a couple days away with us starting training preseason on Tuesday. So Foxy, how are you looking forward to this upcoming season? Are you excited, or are you a little bit skeptical with some of the things we're hearing from some of the training camp press conferences?
I'm very excited. I'm realistic, and I'm very excited, though. I think Jalen's going to make a huge difference. I like what I'm hearing from different guys. I like what I'm hearing from Randall. You don't have to hear some of the things that he's saying or how he's doing. So I'm really excited. You know, I said a few weeks ago that I have a lot of respect for bookies and Vegas saying that we're going to win, 39 some odd games, about a 500 team. Hey, it's a process. And we're going to be discussing that. It's a multi-year process. And I think we're going in the right direction with Jalen. RJ, I think, is going to take a turn. I think Jalen's going to have an unbelievable impact on him, stabilizing him. And Randall, I think, I'm really, my biggest concern more than anything is Tibbs, more than the players, actually. So we'll discuss that, and just a real quick shout out to the chat, Geraldine and Delano and all of our friends in the Florida and the North Carolina area. I hope everything's okay after the terrible hurricane that came your way. So we were sending out prayers during the week. So Geraldine, you were on my mind, and everybody else, the Bodega Wi-Fi, all of our friends down there, Angel Torres in Puerto Rico, etc. So just want to let you know that you were in our thoughts and our prayers.
Yeah, you guys are definitely in our thoughts and our prayers. These natural disasters are something that, hard to prepare for when you're in the way of one. All you can do is, try to bunker down and try to lean on the person next to you and try to, get together and support one another. So keep you guys in our hearts and prayers. Hope everybody is okay. And let's hopefully we can make your day a little bit better if you are dealing with it by talking some Knicks. And Evan Best, he says Giants are 3-1. It's a good thing the mic was mute because I started the whole beginning of this live stream talking about the Giants. So I guess we probably should have started talking Knicks. But yeah, thank you, Evan Best. Giants 3-1. So salute to them. They've been doing their job. Geraldine McGyver, she responded. She says, thanks for asking. We're fine. God bless. Thank you for letting us know you guys are good. Now, Foxy, you hit the nail on the head. I think this season, the most important piece of the squad is going to be the coach, Tom Thibodeau, because, yeah, we have a lot of young guys that can go out there and we think they can produce, but it really doesn't matter if Tom Thibodeau doesn't give them playing time. And, to start the training camp, he was giving some answers or some responses that I was kind of nervous about. But as we started to get into the last couple of days, he's been saying some things that, I've been like, okay, I can understand that. That sounds like something I can rock with. So we'll get into that. But before we get into it, let's just start off by giving a shout out to the entire coaching staff. That way everybody knows who's going to be sitting down there on the bench. So let's put the coaches up on screen. And here we go. So we have Tom Thibodeau as the head coach. And then as the associate head coach, we have Johnny Bryant. Assistant coach is Andy Greer. We've got another assistant coach in Rick Brunson, also the father of one Jalen Brunson. Another assistant coach is Darren Erman. And then we have someone we're all familiar with is assistant coach Dice Yoshimoto. He's been the head coach of the Summer League the past two seasons. So shout out to him. We also have a two-way liaison in Aaron Brooks. He's a former point guard. We also have a former Knick and Othello Harrington as the assistant coach. We've got Daniel Brady as an assistant coach as well. We have the assistant director of player development, and Scott King. I think that's the one that Julius Randle kind of pushed the laptop from him. Am I not?
Yeah,
am I correct?
I think you're right.
Yeah, and then we have the director of video analytics and player development, and Ike as Zotam. Hopefully I said that correct. So give a shout out to the coaching staff for the Knicks this season. And look, we already have people in chat talking about Evan starting. Well, he may end up starting by default at this point, especially with the news that Quentin Grimes was in a boot. I think recently they mentioned that he's been out the boot, but still, that's something you really don't want him. You don't really don't want something like that to linger for him to be in a boot.
Tender feet don't heal overnight.
So, what were some of your thoughts when you first heard that Grimes was in a boot?
It concerned me. What keeps ringing in my ear is you, my friend. Last year when he popped that knee, where you caught me off guard and said, because of all your knowledge and the work that you do, that's a recurring type of injury where he could pop back out. And I was like, oh man, I hope it's not serious. But it concerns me how durable he is. Shout out to Ron Cleveland, who always used to love to say your greatest ability is your availability. So I want to see that Grimes could come back from this and be durable. He's a young guy, man. We don't want these nagging injuries and leg injuries and stuff like that. So this is an important year for him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how often that happens, but you guys just have some foot soreness and they throw him into a walking boot. You know what I mean? And I'm in the medical field and I don't see walking boots that often. Occasionally you see them in ortho when you're dealing with some foot injuries and things like that when they want to relieve the pressure. But, it's not like they said he landed wrong or he stepped on someone's foot or someone stepped on his foot. For him to just be doing normal workouts and then to turn around and have a sore foot, that was kind of concerning. But I mean, now they said it was just precautionary. So I think the last time we heard from Tibbs had mentioned that he's out the boot. He wasn't practicing, 100%, but he was doing some movement and some running up and down the court. So that's a positive. Also, I think when they mentioned that Grimes didn't have the boot on, or Grimes was in a boot, I think Evan Fournier also had that day off as well. So I'm pretty interested to see who was in the starting lineup alongside RJ. Did Cam actually get an opportunity to start? Did he have the blue jersey on and be able to, showcase his case to start or whatever the case may be?
Hey, I like that Fournier, that they arrested him. He played a lot in Europe, as a lot of us know, and he played very well there. But I always get scared that, that they didn't get enough rest. Their legs are a little tired from that. So I'm glad they gave him a little rest, and they're doing some time management, at least in training camp. But folks, I can't wait. 7:00 for I get to the Detroit Pistons on Tuesday. Woo!
Yeah, the end of the NBA not slick, man. They putting us up against the team that refused to give us the opportunity to pick in their spot. So now we're gonna have to deal with that young squad, and I mean it'll be an interesting preseason game. Honestly, I'm more so going to be looking forward to see what type of rotations Tibbs is going to go out there and use, because he had some things that he said earlier today in an interview that the team dropped that I think was pretty interesting. He talked about Mitch being out there on the 3-point line, and if he gets it, if you're out there at the corner, shoot, and if not, cut to the basket and try to put pressure on the rim and things like that. So what this team does with the rotations and with the plays that are drawn up, I think that's really what I'm going to take the most out of these preseason games.
Yeah, all I'm asking of the Knick Nation is that let's be patient. Last week we went over minutes distribution, and the reality is that, and we'll get into some things a little later, but it's going to take it's a multi-year process. The kids are not going to get the minutes that we want them to get this year unless there's a catastrophic injury. So we know at the 1, Jalen's going to be playing 32. We know at the 3, a minimum of 32 to 34, if not higher. RJ at the 3 is getting 32 to 34. Randall at the 4 is getting 32 to 34. So right there, that's saying, and with D Rose coming in shape and everything like that, the lightest he's been and healthy, a 33-year-old D Rose, by the way, early birthday wishes. Shout out to D Rose. His birthday is Tuesday. On our first preseason game, he turns 34. But even a 34-year-old D Rose that's healthy and is slimmed down and stuff like that is devastating versus a lot of guys. So the minutes this year, we may not see the minutes that we like for the kids this year, but it's a multi-year process. Let's just be patient. let's see the development, and we'll go from there. There's a super chat, my friend.
Yep. Salute to Parish Duggar. Thank you for the super chat. He says, salute Key, salute Stephen Fox. Thank you for the support. We really appreciate it. Foxy, I totally agree with you. You look at Derrick Rose. He's a guy that he's been mentioned a lot, especially from Tibbs. So you can expect Tibbs to play him a lot. Also, you hear of some of the things Tibbs has been saying about Derrick Rose. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a lot of Derrick Rose and Jalen Brunson together out there on the court. You hear Tibbs mentioning that Jalen Brunson, he's able to play on and off the ball. And right after he said that, he followed up by saying Derrick Rose is able to play on and off the ball. So we'll talk about some closing lineups towards the end of the show, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do see those two guys out there on the court together, especially in the closing minutes of close games. But
yeah, I can't wait to talk about it. But like you said, we'll catch up on that a little later. But we got a lot to talk about.
Yep. So let's jump into some of the health related issues. Not issues per se, but just to look at what happened last season and how much time some of these guys missed last season. So you look at Derrick Rose, we've spoken about him and how he's expected to be a big piece this season off the bench. He missed 56 games last season. If honestly, felt like a lot more than that, than the 56, but he was out for 56. Quentin Grimes, he missed almost half of the season with missing 36 games due to injury. Cam Reddish, not only did he miss the first half of the season, playing for another team, but after he got here, he missed an additional 16 games. You look at RJ Barrett, Tom Thibodeau had him out there in garbage time with forced him to miss 12 games after he got injured. Julius Randle, he missed 10. Mitch missed 10, but Mitch's injuries towards the end of the season, I think that was just trying to get him to the finish line. I think if we were in serious contention for a playoff spot or for, something else, I think he would have been given the opportunity to play. Obi missed 10, and then you have Quick and Fournier, who really didn't miss too many games at 4 and 2. So health is going to have to be a big part of this season. But even if this team isn't, 100% healthy, you hear Tom Thibodeau say it during his press conferences, we have a deep squad. So if one person, is unable to play, it's next man up. And I think if you look at the way this roster has been set up, I think we're deep at every position except for the wings. You look at guards, we got a multitude of guys that can play at that position. You've got Brunson, Rose, Quick, Grimes can play the 2, and I wouldn't even be shocked if we see him sometimes play the 1, hearing what Tibbs said about him earlier today. So you've got a bunch of guys that can play that position. You look at the center position, you've got Mitch, you've got Ihart, you've got Jericho Sims, you've got Julius Randle, who could also play some time at the 5. And if you want to go crazy and go super small, you want to wild out and put Obi Toppin at the 5, even though I don't think that's plausible, but hey, let's run with it. You have a lot of guys that can play at those positions. So if an injury were to occur, there are options internally where we don't have to go out there and try to mortgage any of our assets to try and make this team whole. So Foxy, when it comes to the injuries and how health may play a factor this season, how confident are you that the Knicks have the players on the roster to pull through?
Pretty confident. Derek, as we said, with Jalen Brunson here, he's going to be lucky he gets 16 minutes at the 1. And we'll see if he'll get any, even if he gets minutes in the off guard position, it would just be probably the last 5 minutes of a game. And so for the minutes, the games he missed, Grimes, that was an injury. Barrett, like you said, was the last second of garbage time that was unnecessary. But a lot of the other guys are actually COVID related. So it wasn't, like they got hurt. There was basketball related injuries. So I thought we were pretty durable. And I think with Derek not being able with Jalen here, he's not going to be run into the ground by Tibbs. What we just touched on in Quentin. I don't know. It's a math thing, like we said. At the 2 position, a day before training camp or with the conversation with Leon Rose, Tibbs said the slate is clean, and then 30 minutes later, he had Fournier's name on it
as the front runner. That was wild.
Yeah, thanks, Tibbs. It's like, yeah. So, but last year, Evan Fournier played 29 minutes. So even if we're saying, hey, you know what, with the depth that Tibbs is talking about and wanting to give some burn time to the kids, If he's getting 24 minutes, that means there's only 24 minutes left. So is that 12 for Grimes and 12 for IQ? And we just talked about 32 at a minimum for Jalen Brunson. So there's 16 left. Does D Rose get that? If he's in primetime D Rose shape, that's optimal amount of minutes at his age. And if he's coming in healthy like that, so even if he gets 10, is that 6 then? So is that 18 minutes in total that Quick's going to get at the 1 and 2? So there's not going to be a lot of minutes going on. So I'm glad he's saying political stuff in the camp, but the math doesn't lie. You have all these guys that are going to be etched in for 32, 34 minutes. So I don't see the kids, as we opened up, folks, getting, pardon me, significant minutes. It just is not enough to go around. And I feel badly for Cam and I feel badly for Obi.
We mentioned Cam. Cam actually said something pretty interesting in his media session. That they said, I don't know who asked the question, but they asked, has it been made clear to you, what you need to do to get more minutes in this rotation? And Cam was like, you know what? That's a really good question, because me personally, I'm trying to find out myself. And I'm just paraphrasing. So he didn't quote that, but that's basically what he said. So I feel for Cam as well, because, we see that, some of these older guys are going to get a lot more of the minutes, but what are these players going to have to do in order to eat away some of the playing time? Like, you want to say Evan Fournier should be the starter because he's, a vet. He was the starter last season. He could knock down the 3. Cool. But at what point do we start to see some of these young guys eat away at those minutes? What do we have to see out there on the court for that to happen? Because it can't just be in practice. We have to be able to see tangible results in game as well. So if Quick starts the season, and well, not Quick, but let's say Grimes starts the season and he's killing and he's playing better defense, he's knocking down the 3, he's showing improved handles, how long into the season before we start to see him eat into Evan Fournier's minutes, if what Tibbs is saying is true and Fournier's the front runner and does start? Because that's what is going to be key to this season. Because if the young guys are starting to prove it, then Tibbs has to be a man of his word and start making some adjustments. So I think that's what I'm going to be looking at, how these young guys perform, if they're giving limited minutes, and what is going to be the key to them now getting more minutes in that rotation, and maybe getting, a little bit less minutes for a guy like Fournier or something like that. But we have some breaking news in the chat, Foxy. We got to confirm it. I'm going to do a Google search to confirm, but I'm seeing Hero just got 4 years, 130.
10 million more than RJ.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought. I said, I wonder
what his base is.
Yeah,
I guess it's 130 with incentives, but hey, he's a much better shooter than RJ.
RJ's a much better defender.
Yeah.
Oh, let's pull it up. Let me do a quick Google search. Sorry to interrupt the show, but this is pretty interesting information.
Yeah. While you're looking, just real quick, shout out to Dripmore. Hope all is well with you and your family. Worldwide L, yo, everybody, if you haven't subscribed for the Love of the Game, the number 4, OUR, the Love of the Game, check out my good friend Lawrence Mayberry, Worldwide L, and the one and only Jahard, Hardwill. Great show, great guys. Please make sure you subscribe. Find anything?
Yeah, 44 seconds ago from Adrian Wojnarowski. Full ESPN story on Miami Heat guard Tyler Hero agreeing on a 4-year, $130 million contract extension. Yeah. Salute to him. Got paid.
Yeah.
They don't really give too much information, though. Just say he averaged 20.7 points a season ago. Yeah, they don't really give the breakdown as to what the base salary is and things like that. But I know in the first year, RJ's base salary was, what, $23 million, right around there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so that's why you guys tune into Sports Vibes TV, because you never know when we'll have some breaking news for you guys. Actually, salute to Jesco, because Jesco's the one that put us on. So appreciate you. Thank you for holding us down, keeping us informed.
Our field producers, the SV Nation, help us in real time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Paris Duggar, he says, if y'all don't stop with regular RJ, he's good. But what, Duggar? You're going to send a super chat. You got to finish the thought, man. Get your money's worth.
Parrish, we love RJ, man. We just keeping it real, man. We want that, We don't want to shoot 71% from the foul line this year. We don't want to shoot him 40% field goal percentage, and we want a little more than 34% from three. That's all we're asking as he matures now. And with Jalen, we think it's going to happen. We think he's going to be wonderful for RJ.
Yeah, see. So Derek Moore says Hero was coming off the bench for some time now. Still Dre says salute Knicks game. Yeah, so, yep. Let's see what else we got going. 90s Nick says, what's this 6-team trade that happened? 6-team trade? I'd have to Google that, but that seems a little bit too involved. I'd have to be off the stream to kind of Google and look up into that, but
yeah, I got to take my shoes off for a 6-team
trade. Right? Get a beer and relax so I can kind of see if everything makes sense. But yeah, that'd be pretty interesting.
Usually the duel starts happening after 3 teams.
I wonder what the largest trade has been in NBA history in terms of the amount of teams.
Yeah, that's
the Harden trade was a 4-team trade. I don't know if I've ever seen a 5-team trade, let alone 6. That'd be a good trivia question. We'll see if we can come back with the answer next stream. It'll be like a Dragon Ball. Find out next. All right. So let's jump into our guy, Derrick Rose, and see what he has to say. Now, he had a pretty interesting quote, and somebody kind of walked in on the interview at the right time too, which was kind of crazy. So Derrick Rose on the key to the Knicks having a successful season: hold everybody accountable from the end of the bench to the starters. As long as we hold everybody accountable, we should go pretty far. And I think he should have expanded that. It should go from the end of the bench to the starters to the coaching staff, because we have to hold those guys accountable as well. We said at the beginning of the show, the most important piece of this season is probably going to be Tom Thibodeau, because he's the one pulling the string. So if I'm looking at people that we have to hold accountable, Tom Thibodeau, he's probably up there on the top of the list. Him alongside Leon Rose and also alongside Julius Randle, who walked in while Derrick Rose was giving this tweet. So Foxy, when you heard this from Derrick Rose and you saw Julius Randle walk in on cue, what was the first thing that popped into your mind?
His ears must have been ringing, because, and also Tibbs, I know he may not have Tibbs or the front office or there, but I think it's inferred. And I think, if we all take a step back, Tibbs handled the Kemba situation terrible. Kemba as a Bronx boy and everything, he treated him terrible. One thing is saying, hey, man, we got you, but we're going to put you to second team. The minute he benched him and impacted the locker room, then all his favoritism to Randle, sticking up for him when his body language, we all know Randle's is a really good player, but his attitude went sour last, and he didn't hold him accountable. And so it's all those type of things that I think Rose just saying, hey, you know what? I think we could surprise a lot of people, but let's cut out the crap. And if people act, cross the line, you got to hold them accountable. And it didn't happen last year. So I think, without saying Tibbs' name, it was all over there. And I think just saying as a vet, D Rose is like, I don't give a shit. You can trade me, man. I'm going to say what the hell I want to say. But we should not, and the Knicks fans should not go through what we went through last year. All we want is energy. If we lose games, we can deal with that. But we can't deal with, as New York guys, if somebody beats us, that's cool. But if we beat ourselves, that's uncool.
Facts. A lot of people in New York City are working 2-3 jobs just to get by. If you can't be committed for 48 minutes, then, as a New Yorker, we're going to look at you like, damn, I'm over here working my butt off and you can't even give us that little bit of effort. But hopefully, they do show up and ball hard. Julius Randle, he's probably the guy that was at the forefront of this quote. We have to be able to hold him accountable. But I'm a little nervous as to whether or not we can, because we saw in the Pro-Am, it didn't seem like the coach that was coaching the Pro-Am could even hold him accountable. So are we seeing Julius Randle start to change his ways a little bit? Fingers crossed. He was a lot happier at the press conferences this season, at the beginning of training camp. So hopefully that's a good sign. But you heard Jalen Brunson when he was having his press conference, he was saying he has to know his audience and he has to know, how he can lead, and also he has to know who he's able to lead. And is Julius Randle going to fall into that box where he's going to allow someone to lead him? Because if not, then we might have some of the same troubles that we saw last year. So we need Julius Randle to buy in. He's an extremely talented player. He can do a lot of things out there on the court that not many people his size and frame can do. So if we can get him to fully commit to being a piece, not the piece on this team, then I think we'll be in a solid spot. It's when he starts to try to do a little bit too much and the defense starts to key in on him, he tends to make some bad decisions. So if he can alleviate some of that pressure by deferring to a guy like a Jalen Brunson or even a guy like RJ Barrett, I think he'll find himself in situations where he'll have a lot, much more easier looks out there than trying to act as if he can go alone.
I'm with you, man. The big difference is Jalen. Ball's going to go through Jalen. So last year, whether it was Burks or whomever, they were subservient. They were going to give the ball to Randle, whether he was in a spot or not in a spot. If he put his hand up, he was going to get the ball. Jalen's going to look at him and is like, nah, man, you're 20 feet from your spot. I ain't giving you ball. Go in your rotation or say goodbye to this possession. Maybe next time. That's what's needed. That's absolutely what's needed. And he's a coach on the floor. So Jalen, we heard the quotes from other guys, man. He doesn't play, man. He's business. So all he's going to ask Julius is to do what's best for the team. And if Julius does that, there'll be synergy. And if he doesn't, we'll go from there.
Before we get into that, I want to give a quick shout out to Jay Bookie, the closer, for the $10 super chat. He says, shout out to the chat and the panel. RJ needs to mark his calendar for Tyler Hero and don't do it for when he comes to Madison Square Garden. Make sure you bust his butt in Miami. Let's go. That's a Snapple fact. Because Hero was kind of talking crazy too. He said, there's players I know that I'm better than that got paid. And now, about 3 or 4 days after that, he's getting paid more than RJ Barrett. So of course, I don't think that's a coincidence.
Yeah. Hey, you're muted. I think you hit the button.
I'm muted?
No, all right. Now I heard you.
Okay.
Oh, everything's cool. So,
all right, good.
Hey, shout out to Jay Boogie. Hope you and your wife and the families, everything's cool from the storm.
Yeah, salute. All right. So, moving from holding players accountable, I don't think we got off to a good foot, especially when we were talking about Tibbs and what he had to say about Randle's defensive effort. So, this is a tweet from Tommy Bear. He says the Knicks allowed 111.6 points per 100 possessions with Randle on the floor last season. The Knicks allowed 104.3 points per 100 possessions. I just can't say possessions today. With Randle on the bench. On Thursday, Tom Thibodeau said he thought Randle's team defense was very good. Now, of course, we all, like Tibbs said it. He said, I actually watched the games. Well, contrary to what Tom Thibodeau thinks, as Knicks fans, we also watch the games too. And I think we would look at his defense and we would say his defense was not very good. It was borderline atrocious at times because he was not giving any effort. He wasn't keeping his head on a swivel and keeping his eye on the man and the ball at times. So he was getting beat on cuts and things like that. So I don't know how Tom Thibodeau could look at the film and say that Julius Randle's team defense was, quote unquote, very good, especially when the stats, the numbers say otherwise. So Foxy, when you heard Tom Thibodeau drop this quote, what did you think?
It bothered me, and we'll go over a couple other things that he said that bothered me. And God bless you, Keith. I love doing shows with you because you touched on it earlier, that it's development not only for our players, but there should be development for our coach and dealing with the media and stuff. You don't hear Kerr saying, giving shade, throwing shade on a continual basis. Like, you're a peon. My basketball knowledge is here, and all your guys' basketball knowledge is down there. And, I think he could be a lot more, he could answer questions in a cooler way. And instead of saying Randle and stuff like that, you don't want to throw your players under the bus and say, he could have very easily said, you know what, folks, we started off slow, but there was a lot of really good things about our team defense last year. With all the things, we were 5th in defense on field goal percentage. We were 6th in defense on 3-point percentage. We were 6th in points allowed last year, and overall our defensive rating was 11th. So that's something that we could build on, and I think really strongly with Evan being here another year and Jalen coming on and everyone as a team playing the right team defense. If we were 11th last year, I think we could be a top 5 defense. Boom, say something positive, say something like that. You don't have to throw in all that other crap about, I look at games, I actually watch games. It was like, yo, man, what the hell is that all about? And like, Keith, how many games, off camera that you and I looking at film said, Jesus Christ, man, he literally, how blatant can you be? He took that play off, and we're like, hey, you know what? There's 100 possessions in a game. You get gassed. You're going against elite guys. Somebody's going to backdoor you. Somebody's going to dunk on you. It's the NBA. That stuff happens. But it was his body language. It was the negative energy he was giving off, the way he'd get beaten. He'd be looking at another player like, man, and everyone's like, that was on you, Julius. What the hell are you looking at that dude for? So it was all of that stuff that, I resent, where Tibbs is like saying, and then there's others, I'm sure, if Sherwin's in the chat, is like, Randall was 18th in defensive rating, the rating. Yeah, you know what? I love stats. People know me, man. Foxy loves his stats. But when I go through stats and I go through draft kids in the draft and everything, through their stats, through their measurables, the most important thing is the eye test. I still go by the eye test. And his body language, we can't go through another year of his body language. And defensively, he can be a good defender, but not when he wants to. And it has to be, the team comes first, and every possession should be like your last possession.
Yeah, but Randall it's basically an effort thing. He wasn't putting the effort out there defensively. That's why when you look at what Tom Thibodeau says about Julius Randle, how can you correct that if you're saying when he gave no effort out there, it was still quote unquote very good in terms of his team defense? To me, I think if the saying is you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if we're looking at team defense and you have a guy out there that's not 100% committed and giving his all, then there's going to be multiple opportunities for the defense to attack us. And if Tom Thibodeau was saying Julius Randle was very good in defending as a team defender, how does he go behind in the locker room and then try to adjust it via coaching and try to tell Julius Randle, we need more from you defensively? Because if I'm Julius Randle, I'm gonna look at it like, yo, you're sending me mixed signals, because at first you told the media I'm doing very good, and now behind the scenes you're telling me I have to give more. Which one is it? And I think that's a very dangerous line for Tom Thibodeau to walk, because it seems like it's just like last season when he was trying to do anything to just appease Julius Randle and not really, come at him when he needed to be corrected. Tom Thibodeau has no qualms with coming at some of the other younger guys in the media if he wants to get more from them. He came at RJ Barrett when RJ Barrett wasn't putting enough shots after games or before games that, to Tom Thibodeau's liking. So why he can't do that with Julius Randle it's clear as day that there are some plays where he just gives little to no effort, even in transition. Like, there's times where he's just nonchalantly moving up and down the court and it leaves us open. And I think if Tom Thibodeau doesn't nip that in the bud now in training camp, that's something that can grow and fester for the remaining portion of the season. But I just wanted to get to a super chat from Parrish Thugger. He says, when you rewatch the games, Fournier is a must keep. That guy's second half shooting ability, especially threes while moving, was incredible. We need that. Yeah. Evan Fournier as a 3-point shooter on the move, I think, is extremely deadly. I was talking about him being a starting option opposite of Quentin Grimes. And I think one edge that Evan Fournier does have over Grimes is the fact that he's a better shooter on the move. And I think at this point in their careers, he's better at putting the floor on the ball on the court and making plays, in that regard. So I do have to give Evan Fournier some credit at his ability to knock down the three on the move. And I think he does have a role on this team. I just think it would be better suited off the bench, where he's going up against weaker defenders and guys that he can, have his way with a little bit more.
I'm with you. And when it comes to Tibbs, I think it goes right back to the D Rose comment about accountability. So many of the things, whether it was on defense, but it was all the other things, setting a screen properly. So many times I've mentioned people said, he had nice chemistry, Randall and Fournier, but there were times where Randall on purpose would give it a really terrible dribble handoff, lack of screen. The player was on top of Fournier and Randall got the ball back, which is what he wanted. Lack of boxing out, lack of technique. And you should never lose technique. This game's all about technique. Everyone is phenomenal, elite their talents are incredible, but really it comes down to fundamentals. That's the ones who are incredible athletes and still have technique. They're the ones that always seem to win out in the end. So, so if he pulls any of that stuff, I think D Rose and everyone's just waiting. Randall, come to the bench. Obi, you're in. And if that doesn't get through to Randall, then we have to get rid of him by the trade deadline.
If anybody's willing to take him.
If anybody's willing to take him.
Yeah. Right.
If anyone's, and folks, it's crazy. This year he makes a little under 24 million. Next year, a little under 25 million. The year after, a little less than 26 million. The year after that, a little less than 27 million. So, so through 2025, we'll make $27 million. So we'll go over contracts in a few minutes, but there's a whole lot of money. He's just started his contract. There's a whole lot of money that's tied up. And in 2025, there's a player option. So he's going to pick that up.
Yes.
So, we're really tied to him. So I'm really thinking positive that, the things that he said is, historically, his game is predicated on him having the ball. So him realizing with Brunson here and RJ developing and stuff, for him to go to the next level, and for him, he's going to have to play off ball. And you've heard me use the term read and react. Read and react is not only for the guy having the ball, it's for the guys that don't have the ball, that they get into the shooting alleys, they find those openings in a zone, let's say, on the floor and stuff like that. They continue their rotations and things like that. So it's really, really important. Randall has all this talent that he's able to harness that. And if he does do something hey, everyone makes mistakes. I'm not going to get upset if he makes a mistake. I'm just going to get upset if he shows bad behavior.
Yep. And that goes in line with what I'm seeing here in the chat. Where's the comment I wanted to point out? This is from Anthony R. He says, not every guy is a defensive all-star, but you can't look at other guys when it is you making or not making plays. And that's true. Everybody's going to get beat eventually. I think Patrick Beverley said it best in an interview a couple days ago. He's going to get crossed over at times. He's going to get beat at times. So what? You got to put your effort out there, and you have to do whatever it takes to try and make that defensive play. And if you don't succeed, then there's always the next play. But don't make the reason you fail because of effort and, just try and not trying to actually, play solid defense. And also we have a super chat from Buzzer Beater. It says, if the kids ain't playing, Tibbs ain't staying. Hopefully that's the way it works out, but we shall see, because Leon Rose sounded like he had a lot of faith in Tibbs. So it remains to be seen, honestly.
Yeah. Hey, folks, we have 123 in the chat. We have 40 likes. We have a favor. Please hit that like. If you have hit the subscribe, thank you so much. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, as we say, it's the one-stop shop for Knicks news, rumors, and analysis. Please turn on that old reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content from Sports Vibes TV. Please share the link on your favorite social media platforms. And if you can't catch it live, shout out to the replay gang. We answer every one of your comments. We love chopping it up with you. And last but not least, shout out to the best mods on the planet. We appreciate all you do. And just a real quick shout out, Anthony R. I mentioned last week I have friends, Danette and Anthony. They have a channel. Unfortunately, I want to send my deepest condolences to my friend Anthony, whose wonderful cousin Lewis passed away suddenly this week. Lou loved making people laugh. He was a huge Knicks fan. Rest in peace, Lou. The Knicks fandom is sending our love to you and your family. Heaven just got a new angel that has blue and orange wings. I'm so sorry for your loss, Danette and Anthony.
Yeah, our condolences, Anthony. Sorry to hear. All right, Foxy. You did mention something that I thought was pretty interesting, talking about Julius Randle being off ball more, and we heard Tibbs mention that in his press conference. I believe it was either the one that they posted today or the one that was a couple days ago. But they talked about Julius Randle with the addition of Jalen Brunson. Now it frees Julius Randle up to now operate without the ball in his hands and get into his spot. And to hear Tom Thibodeau actually talking about that, I think was music to my ears, because one of the biggest questions or biggest concerns was, is Julius Randle going to be okay with not having the ball in his hands the majority of the time? So for Tom Thibodeau to be mentioning that, I think that means, it's being coached to them that This is Jalen Brunson's job as the point guard to bring the ball up, and Julius Randle, now it's your job to find a way to get into your spots without the ball into your hands so that they can find you. So I think that's something that I think was music to my ears, and something that I'm interested in seeing how we look in game one. Are we going to see more of Julius Randle bringing the ball up, or are we going to see more Jalen Brunson bring the ball up and then a lot more ball movement in order to find, some cutting lanes and cutting angles and things like that to get into the paint? So that's something I think
we're going to see Brunson bringing the ball up, but I thought Julius did make an interesting comment. He made that the ball gets up the floor a lot quicker with a pass than it does with a dribble. And that's making progress in my book. That if Julius understands that, we don't want you dribbling the ball up, and if it does happen once in a while,
it is what it is.
Once a game, but that's not, we don't want that as the norm. And so with Jalen, we don't think that's going to happen, but hopefully this is him learning that he has to change. It's for him to. Hey, we've talked about for a long time on a really good team, Julius is a third option. Unfortunately, over the last couple of years, we weren't a very good team, so he was a number one option. Jalen's here now. RJ's coming into his own. So hopefully, we just talked about he's getting all this money, 24 million, 26 million, 28 million, and 30 million over the next 4 years. That should make him a lot more comfortable to just, play within himself.
Yeah, so, I mean, Another thing we've been talking about Julius Randle to see if we can get make life a little bit easier for him is if we can get him to play at the 5 and play against bigger and slower foot defenders. And it seems like Tom Thibodeau, he's still resisting, or he's still not with making that change, or at least going with that option. So these are some of the things he had to say when talking about potentially pairing Randle and Obi together, because as of right now, if Randle's getting 32 minutes, 34 minutes, and if Mitch is going to play his 25 to 27 minutes, and the rest of those minutes being given to iHeart, really doesn't give much room for Obi to play and to grow. So this is what Tibbs had to say about a potential Randle at the 5, Obi at the 4 lineup. He says, I want to be careful because it was a very small sample size. So you look at it. What do your eyes tell you in close, meaningful games when we tried it? What happened? Those were very negative, quote unquote. And he also had a little bit more to say regarding those two. He said on Randle, Obi positive rating when paired, he said it's not only the numbers, quote unquote, I actually watched the games. If you look at the games that were blowouts, there were 1 or 2 in particular that probably threw those numbers off. And honestly, I think the biggest game that jumped off to me where I saw Randle and Obi being a solid pairing was against the Toronto Raptors. I think when we went small ball, it really helped us in that game. So for Tibbs to say that he thinks the Randle and Obi pairing has no future or doesn't seem like a great option, I think he might be a little bit short-sighted. We need to see these guys on the court a little bit more together, together on the court a little bit more, just to see if that's something that we can actually use this season. So Foxy, do you think Obi and Randle could be a lineup that we can go to and actually see some success?
I do. And again, this is the lack of development in Tibbs. This is your 3rd year in New York. You don't see Kerr and others answering questions. It was an easy answer for that, where he could have deflected it and said, hey, you know what, folks? The reality is Randle and Obi only played 104 minutes together. It's a really small sample size, but we know game in, game out, there are different matchups. If there's a matchup that lends itself well to us playing Randy and Obi, we'll look at it. Next question. You didn't have to say that other stuff that I actually watched the games or those numbers, that they were blowouts and threw it and have anything negative. He hasn't learned anything then. So we're putting this that the players have to develop, but the coach is not developing, that he's saying things like this, that he could have easily deflected that and just said, hey, it's a real small sample size. I know you can get excited, but we'll see. We'll see. If it lends itself well, we'll definitely look at that. And if you look around the league, NBA is changing drastically. The 5 position, the wing, everything is changing. So I think there is a future, potentially for those guys to play there with Randle at the 5.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a few creative lineups where you can go small but still be a bigger lineup in terms of of a small lineup. So you can go out there and you can have Julius Randle at the 5, OB at the 4, Cam at the 3, RJ at the 2, and then if Grimes has shown us enough with his ball handling and things like that, you could even have him out there running the one in spurts. So there are lineups that we can use and where we can, have Randall, have Obi out there and still have solid perimeter defenders. So that way everybody isn't getting, free lanes to the basket and kind of help those guys out defending the paint. So I think if Tibbs would be a little bit more creative in his approach, a little bit more progressive in the way he coaches, he could find a way to use those two together. Julius Randle, I think for the most part, we call Julius Randle a bully. So if Julius Randle's bullying 4s down there on the block, there's certain 5s he can bully as well. He's not going to be able to bully some of the bigger ones, but if it's a situation where they have a smaller 5 or even a 4 out there at the 5, because there's other teams that use small lineups. So you're telling me if another team uses a small lineup, you're going to say, no, we have to keep either Mitch or Ihart out there just to make sure we have rim protection? I think you have to adjust based on your matchups. And I think if you have Julius Randle and Obi out there with enough perimeter defenders inside, I think you can have a solid 5 to put out there and be competitive.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Julius is an elite player, man. So if like a traditional 5 comes out on the perimeter to Julius will blow past that dude with his eyes closed. There's just no way they're going to be able to handle him. On defense, if they get it, who plays post anymore? But if they get it in, maybe it'll be a different animal. But there's not a lot of guys that do that. I don't think if there was a guy like that, we'd have them playing. But if it was a smaller lineup, I definitely think it's something that we could play to success. So for him to, just throw water on it to the reporter and, resent it and saying, we look at the numbers and you're not really looking at the numbers right, that they were skewed because of those blowouts. Come on, man. You could be a lot more diplomatic or political in your answer and, not throw anyone under the bus and just say, hey, we'll definitely look at it and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Tibbs letting us know that he thinks he's better than us, whether it's us, the fans, or whether it be the reporters or the media.
He did it last year, so there's nothing he's learned. He was doing that constantly, where we're saying, "Why the hell are you playing Burks?" Where we're saying, "Why are you doing these lineups last year?" And he'd look, well, analytics wise, and we're like, no. We get cleaning the glass. I have all these subscription stats things. You're you can't bullshit a bullshitter, man. That the numbers you're lying to us.
Yeah, and he really has no remorse lying to us. He can lie to us with a straight face.
Yeah.
Want to give a quick shout out to Delano Steele. He says, personal opinion, I'd rather have RJ Barrett back at shooting guard, and the only way to make that work is to trade Fournier. I mean, there's ways to make it work without trading Fournier. It's just Tibbs wouldn't be willing to go down those routes, because you could just start Cam at the 3, have RJ at the 2, and then you could have Grimes and Fournier come off the bench to spell RJ and Cam. And if you need to, you could even stagger those two in the lineup to still find ways to get both players involved. So Foxy, I think that's similar thought process you have as well, no?
Yeah, but shout out to Delano. Hope all is well. One of the things that's happened over the last couple of years is data analytics. We keep touching on that. Data analytics, I think, has changed basketball more than anything. Everyone's like, Curry changed it and everything. No, folks, analytics changed it, because the analytics, it's a math thing. That you could be a guy that shoots threes. You're just as valuable as a 33% guy shooting from 3 is just as valuable as a guy that shoots 50% from 2. So that's why, we're seeing these mixes like, wow, why are they taking so many threes? Because the math is showing that you're much better off. Those 3 points are really important versus 2 points. And we'll take the 33%, 34% from 3, because if we do the math, it works out in our favor. That's why, DeRozan and a few of these guys, short mid-range will still be there, but guys that are taking long mid-range, a couple of feet inside the 3-point line, I guarantee coaches are saying, don't take that shot anymore. It's statistically a bad shot for you to take. It's a much smarter shot for you to, do a step back a couple of feet and take a 3 than it is to take a long 2. the math just works out well. And I think that we're all experienced this across the NBA, that these analytics now are changing the way the game's being played. And I think the threes are going to be just going at a much higher rate than ever.
Yeah, but you heard Tibbs talk about it as well. Do you remember how many we averaged a game? I think he said it was like 37.
We averaged last year, we 37. Yeah, 36.9. So rounded off.
He said we shot 37, and he's trying to get us to get closer to 40. And I can live with that as long as we're taking good threes and we're not forcing up the threes, because it also, you have to take into account that you're getting good quality looks and not just shooting the three just to the hell of shooting the three. So I think that's something we definitely we're going to be keeping our eye on to see how many threes we're getting up. And it was a big jump from the year before. I think the year before we only shot like 26 threes per game, and we jumped to like 37. So definitely we're trending in the right direction. And he's right. The starting lineup does need shooting, but I don't think Evan Fournier is the only option in that starting lineup that would give you some shooting. So.
But I do think that to Tibbs, the impact of Jalen Brunson, he is so elite at breaking down defenses, getting to the hole, and if they do converge, kicking it out. That versus last year and a few other things, for Fournier to have an open three rather than a contested three, he's a sharpshooter, man. You don't want to give a guy, like we talked about, there were 2 places on the floor last year in the NBA where Evan Fournier was number 1 in the league from shooting. So if you can get him an open look besides just a contested, it's a smart move. So that's why he's being very protective, especially with Burks no longer here. We don't know how many minutes, it was funny because when he said that, with Brunson and Randall and RJ, you want a shooter around them. And I laughed you off camera and I said, is he saying, in other words, Jalen, RJ, and Randall, you can't shoot? so that's why we need a shooter around you guys who can't shoot. So it's funny, but we'll see how things, but you know what, folks, like I said, what time is it? It's 48, a little less than 48 hours to our first preseason game. So it's going to be, like he said, really interesting to see the rotations, because pretty much I think he'll experiment maybe in the fourth quarter, but we're going to get a real good flavor of what those rotations are going to be.
Facts. We got a comment from Knicks Nation 112. He says, I don't think it is Grimes' time yet. I believe Grimes needs to fall in line. Fournier, then Cam, which will allow Cam to beat out Fournier. Then we trade Fournier and increase Grimes' role behind Cam. See, he's over there playing 4D chess. He's thinking a few moves ahead. I'm with it. You allow Fournier to start for the first, 8 to 10 games. And then if Cam supplants him, I think that would be dope. And if you can move off of Fournier by the trade deadline and get something of value, I'd be open to that as well.
Yeah, but we've seen the craziness of Tibbs with Peyton a couple of years ago. Why he'll still start him, even though it's like, all right, you'll start him ceremonially from a ceremonial standpoint and then take him out. It's like, no, just take him out. So we'll see if he'll pull the same thing with Fournier, where he's going to start him, even if he cuts down his minutes, and like, why are you doing that? So I think his time has come and gone, man. I'm not a big Tibbs guy, and there's a few other things that he said this week that really bothered me.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to kind of believe everything he says, because we've had, a few years of watching him coach, and you look at what he did with Elf. You can't tell me that was merit-based. Elf was the best option at point guard. Last season, you can't tell me Burks was merit-based. He was the best option at point guard. So you want me to believe now in this season that you're going to say everything is quote-unquote merit-based and the best player is going to play? Well, for the last 2 seasons, that was proven to be false. So it's going to take a little bit more for me to be a legitimate believer. But, it's a new season, so I'm going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt. But come game 1, I need to see what he's been talking about here in training camp come to fruition. If the best player... Go ahead.
Do you have that slide with the total minutes from second half of last year?
No, I don't have that one up.
That's cool. But folks, it was really interesting. Shout out to Tommy Beer. He put out the total minutes of the second half last year. Nikola Jokic was second with 757. Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Karl Anthony Towns, LaMelo, the who's who. You know who was number 1 in the NBA last year in the second half of the 2021-22 season in minutes? Alec Burks. with 774 minutes. So you're say to yourself, that could only happen if there was a catastrophic injury. You had D Rose's injury, but that you still had others. Hey, we saw on the slide that Keith just showed, he only missed a couple of games, IQ. So why didn't you play IQ there? We saw, Miles McBride eat up the G League like nobody's ever ate it up. And yet the kid, hey, give him 5 minutes. We're not saying play him 20, but you saw what Kerr do at Golden State with Kuminga and with Moses Moody and stuff. You just got him like 5 or so minutes that means a big difference, that muscle memory that we're always talking about in the intensity of a real NBA game. So, for Tibbs to say, so when you look at it, what do your eyes tell you? Hey, my eyes tell me that if Alec Burks was the number one in minutes last year, either we had a terrible team, a terrible coach, or C, all the above. So, so don't, like you said earlier, Keys, don't treat us like we're stupid, don't put us in a Michael Corleone position of don't insult my intelligence.
Facts. And speaking about someone that should be getting some more minutes and seeing if Tibbs is speaking the truth, it's going to be Cam. These were some of the comments Tibbs had on Cam. He says, we have good depth at wing. He's going to have to point them out. I can't tell you right now who's in the rotation, who's not in the rotation. When Cam got here, he got injured right away. That's false. He didn't get injured right away. You sat him on the bench right away, and then he got injured after the fact. But we won't get into it. He says when Cam got here, he got injured right away, so camp has been good for him. On Cam being in the Knicks rotation, that will be earned. We shall see, because I think Cam should be able to beat out an Evan Fournier for a starting position. So it's all going to come down to that.
Yeah. See, I have major issues with this. I don't think we have great depth at wing. I think we have great depth at the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like the basketball game is changing radically. Wing, I think the definition of wing should change over the next couple of years. Hey, folks, RJ Barrett, we love RJ Parrish. We're not saying anything bad here. We're just saying realistically, he's average athletically. He doesn't have really, crazy hops and explosion, but he's a dynamite player, RJ. But the reality with RJ has a 6'10" wingspan. Here's a dirty little secret about Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes has a 6'7" 3/4" wingspan. 6'7" 3/4. That's not a 3 in my book. That's a 2. So I think we have really good depth at the 2, but we only have 1 3 in Cam that has that 7'1" wingspan. The only other player like that is Farhan Hunt, who's 6'8" with a 7'1" wingspan. But when
not
you look
nearly
around,
as talented.
Not nearly as talented. But when you look around the guys that we want to emulate, Mikal Bridges, 7'1" wingspan. Andrew Wiggins, 7 foot plus wingspan. People are like, well, 6'10" to 7'1", 7'2", it's only a few. It's a huge difference. RJ should be playing the 2, and we should have with this league and everything, and before when you talked about Cam in his interview saying, I'm not really sure. On the roadcast, they should have went, wrong answer. The right answer is, how do I get to play? It's defense. It's easy read with Tibbs. You play defense. You use that 7'1" wingspan to be disruptive in passing lanes, making steals, playing tenacious team defense. Everything will take off from there with Tibbs. And like we were saying, off the ball, hey, you continue your rotations. The comment about, he got here and he was injured right away, so camp's going to be good for him. Another way of saying is he didn't know what the hell he was doing on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. So hopefully in training camp, he'll know what the hell he's supposed to be doing. And, earned, I think he's basically saying, hey, man, this is your contract year. We want to see how much you want it. So for him not to say that, hey, Chad, do me a favor. I just got it. I got a quick winky. There was a troll in the chat, but I just resent that him saying, yeah, it does have to be earned, but he didn't give him minutes the minute he got here. So I don't know if it was, he was showing the front office, and Leon said, he's autonomous and with the rotation, who plays. And he showed that last year, but why the hell did you make the trade then? And now there's no way, we'll go over it in a little while about contracts and stuff. I can't see us having Cam for the future. So I think we should trade Cam.
Yeah, I hope we don't trade Cam. I think Cam.
I hope we don't trade Cam either. But with this coach and a few other things, hey, if we're playing RJ at the 32 to 34 minutes, Cam is only going to get 16 minutes. We can't play him at the 4 because I hope he's fighting for minutes. He's only getting 16 minutes because of Randall at the 4. And when we just talked about the overflow of IQ and Quick, IQ and Grimes at the 2 with Fournier. So Cam's not going to get any 2 time. Where is this guy going to get any significant minutes? The answer is, unless there's a catastrophic injury, he's not. He's going to get 16 minutes. So he came from Atlanta playing 20 some odd minutes now to play all these less minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Cam. He's saying he should have mentioned the defense was going to get him on the court. And he mentioned defense. He says he knows he's going to have to play defense, and he's not too concerned about playing defense because he has the quote unquote the motor to do that. So, man, it'll be I just don't understand why the Knicks made the move for Cam if we weren't going to be able to actually play him, or at least talk to the coach and say we're making a move for a guy that could be special. But in order for us to do this deal, we have to ensure that you'll be willing to play him, because if not, then it's just a waste. And all you're going to do is you're going to bring somebody in here that, you know, other people, other fans are going to look at it and say, all right, he has potential. So then why isn't the coach going to play him? Especially when you're looking at a guy like an Evan Fournier, who I don't think is going to be here long term. So why not have Evan Fournier come off the bench in a situation that might be better suited for him and see what we have in a guy like Cam Reddish? We'll talk about the players and their contracts, but we've only got one more year to really evaluate what Cam Reddish can do. If not, he'll be a free agent, which we can match. But at that point, would you want to match a contract for Cam Reddish if you're not even playing him now, when you can, you know, you have the opportunity to see what he could be? To me, it's just a frustrating situation to be as a fan, especially like you said, we don't have any wings on this team that you can say is a legitimate NBA starter. Cam is the only one.
Yeah, and like you said, taking a step back, SV Nation, if you're acting like a G, putting on our GM hats, doing roster construction, that you want a real, you know, I see Delano just made a comment, you want a guy that's 6'8" now in this league, you know, with over a 7-foot wingspan. When I'm looking at the draft, I've been looking at this kid, Jordan Walsh from Arkansas, even though he's only 6'7", he has a 7'3" wingspan. When I was talking last draft about Tari Eason, he had a 7'3" wingspan. So guys that are uber athletic, we need an infusion of athleticism on this team. So Cam is that. So that's why, you know, you got him, okay. Then you should be saying, you know what? Move RJ to the 2, Cam is our 3, and then all the other guys are going to be fighting for minutes after that. But so our lineup is going to be Jalen, RJ, Cam, Randall, if he's still here, and/or Obi, and Mitch and/or Ihart, depending on the set that we want to run.
Facts. Chat, we currently have 178 viewers in the chat. Do us a solid. Just make sure you smash that like button. We've only got 64 likes. Let's see if we can get to 100 before the end of the stream. Now, Foxy, anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, Pudge Nice. Hope all is well with you and your family. Hector Gaston, Jean-Marc, hey, Sherwin. Hope all is well. Our friend from Westchester. Again, Geraldine MacGyver. I'm glad everything went well. Kaiser Soze, an old friend, 718. East Blue Drew, EBD, hope all is well. Connor Toolin, again, so many that are not only cool for showing up at the chat, they're real strong in the replay gang, and I love chopping it up with you with all of the comments and stuff like that. DBR, earlier I saw my girl Danette and Anthony R. So again, shout out to you, my friends, Silver Surfer, Juan Pecan. Again, folks, thank you so much. And as we talked about last show, we just blew past 1.3. I think it's almost 1.34 million viewers. We're up to it was 6.32 thousand subscribers. And as I said to you, I'm real superstitious. Help us get to that 7,000 subscriber milestone. We really, really appreciate it. So please, like we said, tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't, if you have subscribed, if you haven't, like we said, one-stop shop for those Knick news, rumors, and analysis. And thanks again to the mods. Justin L., hope all is well with the family and your little boy, Lex the Destroyer. Again, Del Chapman, hope all is well with the family. Little Avery, Canal, Julian Blum, John Talento, Jesco, the Wrench Mob. We appreciate all you do.
Yeah, Knicks Nation 112 said IQ didn't look confident in his interview the Knicks put out today. I feel like that was only half of the interview because it kind of started before the interviewer even asked the question. It jumped right into Quick's response. So that was like a 2 minute and 25-second interview. So that was interesting. Thanks for pointing that out, Knicks Nation. Also, East Blue Drew says, why IQ know everybody out here, Meek and Lil Uzi? Well, I think he's Rock Nation, so he's going to be at a lot of those events doing meet and greets and whatnot with famous folk.
Yeah, and if he was a little somber, I think he's a smart guy. He knows the math, that he's not going to get the minutes that he got last year. There's just no way that IQ, unless there's an injury, that he's going to get the minutes that he did last year.
Well, we're hearing conflicting reports because we know the math and we look at the math and say, all right, I don't see how this is going to work. But you've got reports coming out that the guys are going to have larger roles this season, et cetera, et cetera. But I just don't see how unless you're going to bench.
It's a lie. You and I is like saying, it's like you have 32. You have if Jalen's playing 32 to 34 minutes at the point guard, there's only 16 minutes or less. So that's either D Rose or D Rose and IQ breaking that up. So what? He's getting 8 or 10 minutes. All right. So you have 10 minutes for IQ, and then at the 2. So you're saying, the front runner is Fournier. So he played 29 last year. So let's be cool and say 24. There's only 24 or less. So that's 12 for you, 12 for Grimes. Where are those minutes? Mm-hmm. So he has to know that unless D Rose drops out or something else, but there's hope, folks. And we'll touch on that in a couple of minutes when we touch on contracts, to just say it's a multi-year process. That's why I'm excited about this team. But we have a couple of years for this to work out. This is not the end all, just this one season if they don't get the minutes.
We got a couple of years for a few players, but not for Cam. So we'll put up a couple on screen. You can see Cam he'll be in the final year of his deal. We can put out a qualifying offer in order to be able to make him a restricted free agent. So if he accepts the qualifying offer, he'll come back at about 8.1 mil. And then the following season, he'll be an unrestricted free agent. If you look at Quentin Grimes, this is year 2 for Quentin Grimes. We have 2 more years of club options.
Club options, yeah.
And then we have to offer him a qualifying offer in 25-26. And it'll be the same thing. If he accepts the qualifying offer, then he'd be a free agent unrestricted free agent the following year. So you mentioned it, Foxy. We have enough time to evaluate Quentin Grimes. Look at Quentin Grimes. We have him for the next 3 seasons. And you look at a guy like Evan Fournier, who we can potentially move off of a lot easier this next off season, because then he'll be an expiring deal. So me personally, I think Quentin Grimes is someone that we shouldn't be too concerned about because we have a little bit more time.
That's why I'm saying let's be patient, folks.
Mm-hmm. But with Cam, this is it. To quote Michael Jackson,
This is it. Yeah, but make no mistake, there's a gun to our head on this one. So, hey, Cam is not going to sign any qualifying offer here because he just can't get the minutes unless they, like we said, unless he comes out, there's something happens, he balls out, he realizes his potential. That the reality is. He won't sign that $8.1 million qualifying offer because he just can't get the minutes here. He will go someplace else, and if we match it, and don't forget, folks, we have Jalen Brunson that's tied up. We have RJ that's tied up. We have Mitch Robinson that's tied up. We have Randall that's tied up. So when you look at Grimes' contract, you're saying, hey, it's really negligible. It's not a lot of money. But you look at Cam and saying, what is this guy going to be looking for? Are we going to do a 1 year, $8.1 million, and then he'll become a restricted free agent? Or so I definitely think he's going to be shipped out by trade deadline this year.
I don't think we can even offer the qualifying offer and expect him to come back. Somebody's going to pay Cam.
I said that.
Yeah, it won't be us. So we'll pay the 8.1 and we'll offer the 8.1 in the qualifying, but somebody will give him a 4-year deal.
It. Yeah.
No, we have to either decline it or extend it. He would just have to either go out there and get a qualifying offer or an offer sheet from another team, and then it would be up to us to match it. Correct. Yep. So he'll get a 4-year deal from someone
for sure.
Yeah. So another couple guys that we have to keep an eye on in terms of their development is going to be Obi and IQ. So we can see these guys were both drafted same year. So the years are pretty similar. We've got them for another 2 years. The following year or next year would be a club option, and then we have to give him or extend the qualifying offer. You can see Obi, his qualifying offer is going to be a little bit higher than Quick, seeing that he was drafted higher in the first round. But I mean, even with Obi, it's going to be an interesting situation, because you look at the guy in front of him. I think at that point we would still have Julius Randle for another 2 seasons. So it's going to give us a pretty big dilemma as to whether or not we should even offer Obi an extension, because we're going to extend him and play him where? We are already showing the fact that we're not going to play him over Julius Randle. So at that point, it's really going to become Obi versus Julius. Either you trade Julius in the remaining, year or 2 in his contract, and then extend Obi big money, or you trade Obi before we even get to this point, so that way you don't lose him for anything. That's another thing we have to add into this scenario. If we don't want to get to we don't want to get to the 24 off season unless we've made a decision as to whether or not we're going to keep him, because at that point we may lose him for nothing. So I wouldn't be shocked if I see us move off of a guy like Obi if it ends up being that we don't really have any space to play him.
I'm with you, and again, it's roster construction at the 4 position. In the 24-25 year, you're paying basically a little under $28 million to Randall if he's still here. So if you're going to be signing a big contract, you shouldn't be putting that much money in the 4 position. There's, especially for a guy that doesn't block shots and a guy that's not an elite rebounder. He's a maniac. He's magnificent in transition, and I think his shot will come up. But I definitely think that unless we move Randall, if we don't move Randall, I think we're going to move Obi, because down the road, like you just said, I think maybe we'll keep him next year, because, a 6.8 is still, I think, manageable for us. But the minute he gets into restricted free agency, I think whether a sign and trade or something else.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We got young players, but the clock is ticking. So, I mean, we do have this season to kind of figure it out once again. But remember, even if we do take this season to kind of figure it out, we go and things don't go the way we would have expected, Tibbs might be out of here. So now you're going to have a completely new coach come in, and he's going to evaluate the roster as well. I mean, even worse, we could have a new front office if things go off the rails. And at that point, we don't know what they're going to do with the roster as is. We could see them say, all right, I'm not really a fan of this Knicks young core, and move everybody just to get more assets. And we'll be back in this situation in this cycle once again. So, I mean, we would hope that this regime, things work out with this regime. So we have somebody that drafted these guys and is invested in them. But, I mean, if we have a rough season this year, things could go off the rails real quick.
Real quick. And we talked about it. There will be some exciting, but only 16 minutes a game worth of D Rose, IQ. And we know Tibbs loves the chemistry between D Rose, IQ, and Obi on that second team. They're going to be killer. D Rose, IQ, let's say Cam, Obi, and iHeart. Yo, man, that's showtime, that second team. But that's just teasing our emotions, because we're going to say, yo, and Randall's coming back in the game, folks. Wait a minute. They were just lighting this up. What are you doing? So, and we've called him over the last couple of years the cooler, where the second team is like lit it up and like, whoa, you're putting those guys in that had no energy, and there goes our lead. We just lost our lead. What are you doing? So, and I have said this constantly, Tibbs is consistently Tibbs. So I'm not looking for anything other than Tibbs being Tibbs this year. And that's why I think he's going to be playing D Rose. He's going to be playing Randall, Brunson, and RJ, and poor Cam, poor IQ, and poor Grimes. They're not going to get the minutes that we want, and especially they want.
Yep. By game 5, I think we'll have a pretty good idea of what kind of coach we'll see. If we'll see a Tom Thibodeau that's going to be making the same mistakes from previous seasons, or if we're going to see a new, improved Tom Thibodeau 2.0. I got my fingers crossed, hoping that it's going to be a Tom Thibodeau 2.0, and that the things that he's saying in these media scrums or whatever you want to call it is true. But when you look at the roster and you look at what the things he's done in his career, it's hard for me to see him enter this season and kind of really switch it up. So
Yeah. I'm with you, man.
All right, so let's have a little bit of fun and let's go through some of the options the Knicks might have to close games. We've spent a lot of time talking about who starts, but I think the more important lineup might be the squad that finishes. So we have three options here. In the first option, we have pretty much the starting lineup, except we have iHeart in or Mitch. Our second option would be Brunson, RJ, Randall, and Mitch at their regular spots, and Grimes in for some defensive help and shooting as option 2. And we have option 3. This is a lineup he kind of talked about at the beginning of the show, kind of paying off the tees at this point. I'm looking at Jalen Brunson, Derrick Rose.
Doesn't it?
Who? Molly? I thought they broke up. They divorced. No.
I don't know.
I think they divorced. It's Jalen Brunson, Derrick Rose, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and then you have iHeart in as well. So Foxy, you look at these three closing lineups. Who would you probably pick as the best fit for you if you wanted to win a game?
Well, folks, when Keith and I were putting this together, we use this mentality that there's all these different options. A lot of times you have a timeout, and you know that after the possession, there'll be another timeout. So for that, that first option of saying, you know what, we know there's going to be a timeout after this possession. Evan's a great shooter. Jalen's fantastic at breaking down defenses, kicking it out. The one constant that you see across all three options, obviously, is Jalen, RJ, and Randall. But iHeart's there, obviously, the stretch the floor, and also he's a better foul shooter than Mitch, and he's a good rim protector. So on the second one is, let's say after they do score a bucket and they go into that defense, the team gets in there in a defensive possession. That's where you bring in Grimes. And if they, make a stop, Grimes still can drain that three. And that's, why Mitch on this is, we try to give you different flavors that this may be our defensive look, mode in closing. And that last option, folks, again, the one thing that we saw last year was they doubled RJ or they doubled Randall because that's where they knew they were going to get the ball. Who were they going to double this year? Jalen, because he's the shot creator. And when you got a D Rose there, if you double Jalen, D Rose, that's a dangerous, and especially if he's healthy and he's fresh, that's a dangerous closing rhymes to have two guys who create their own shots, two guys who can break down defense, two guys that can shoot threes. And again with iHeart there. So I think, I'd love to hear from the SV Nation what your thoughts are. But we wanted to give you different flavors depending on what the dynamics of what's happening in the closing, whether offense, defense, whatever, that we do have a lot of options here.
Yep, we do have a bunch of options. Me personally, I kind of lean toward option 2, but with option 2, I might want to have iHeart in over Mitch as well. Just because you get that versatility with the shooting. You can play 5 and out, and then you have a passer in iHeart that can, pick apart teams once they're being spaced out on the court like that. So me personally, I might have iHeart just because of the offensive versatility. I know somebody asked if iHeart was a good free throw shooter. If I'm not mistaken, he shoots 68% from the charity stripe. So,
I'll round it off 70. Yeah, 68.9. Yeah, so 69%. Yeah.
So he's decent enough. Better than Mitch, so that's
better than 48.6.
Yeah, so it's an upgrade at the center position, and I might go option 3. You have Jalen Rose, you have D Rose. We saw before he went out for his injury. He's been working on his 3-point shot. That's been pretty money. So he's been expanding his game in that regards. And you have two guys in Brunson and D Rose that can penetrate and make good decisions with the basketball. Both can finish at the paint. I mentioned Rose getting better at shooting the 3, and then you have a RJ Barrett out there that can create a lot of damage to opposing defenses when they're rotating or trying to collapse the paint to prevent either D Rose or Jalen Brunson to get good looks. So option 3 might be the squad that I would go with if I had to pick one between these 3. But if you look at it, the Knicks have a plethora of options that are going to be solid to go to. It's all going to be down to Tom Thibodeau making the right decisions, because you can look at these 3 options and you can take 2-3 players off the bench and make other, option 4, option 5 that are just as good. So it just shows you the depth of this team, and it shows you the versatility of this squad. So it just preaches even more and more that Tom Thibodeau needs to be more versatile with his rotations and his lineups, and try and tinker a little bit to see what works. He says he makes the lineup based on how the team performs. Well, maybe you should change a little, change a player here, change a player there to see if the team works a little bit better if you make some of those changes. I look at option one, you're telling me if you were to take out Evan Fournier and swap him for Quentin Grimes, that option one wouldn't be as good or maybe even better when you add the fact that Quentin Grimes can play better defense. So, as long as Tibbs isn't too strict with his lineups,
rigid,
too rigid, that's a better word, thank you. With his lineups, I think we should be a solid team.
Yeah, and I love the point you made is on IQ's passing. Folks, I think one of the revelations and why you heard whether Alan Hahn and a few other people saying when they touched around the league, like, yo, man, that was a great pickup by the Knicks because he changes everything. He, when you compare him to the traditional centers we've had with Mitch and Nerlens Noel, and he brings a whole new flavor of the capabilities that he's able to do at that position. I don't know if you have that slide handy.
Which one? Oh, the passing? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in a shout out to Ben Ritholtz for this analysis, but last season, folks, 4 New York Knicks centers played 3,911 minutes, 114 assists. iHeart, 3 times less minutes at 160 assists. Yo, that is game changing. So that was a great. So besides the stretch and everything, passing, we talked about ball movement on this to have a 5 now. We talked about Mitch and, we're glad he signed and we have him here. Didn't even average 1 assist. Not even 1 assist, a point something. So to have somebody that can do this, it changes everything for us. So whether it's closing or during games and stuff like that, this is really important. Hopefully Mitch, gets a fire under his ass to say, you know what, I know I'm an elite rebounder. I know I'm a great shot blocker and rim protector, but if I don't shoot, there's other elements of my game I can do. And one of them is passing.
Yeah,
I don't know how you can go through a game and not get at least 1 assist. That's crazy to me.
It's not too crazy to me because you look at Mitch's game, it's pretty much I pick things up, I put them down. He just dunks. So there's really no opportunity for him to pass. The only time he's touching the ball is he's dunking.
Yeah, 1 dribble and handoff. 1 dribble and handoff.
Yeah, all that, at the 3-point line.
Exactly.
And that's probably the 0.6 assists he probably has for the season. They probably came around the screen and pulled up.
Yeah. Any numbers yet on the
poll?
On the poll?
Yeah, let's close the poll and see what happens. Drum roll, please. I need to get the drum roll sound for this.
Yeah.
So the winner, by popular demand. Hold on, wait. Let me put the zoom on. I'm half blind. All right, boom. So the winner by popular demand was option 2 with 46% of the vote. And option 3 came in with a close second at 39% of the vote. And Evan Fournier and his option 1 comes in at 14%.
Yeah. Hey, and God bless the SV Nation. I think everyone realizes if you have 2 shot creators in both Jalen and D Rose, that's devastating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ace Blue Juice says option 2 is the only choice. Everybody's putting their hope and faith behind Quentin Grimes, and I think that would be the best lineup defensively. I like the offensive versatility with both Brunson and D Rose out there.
Yeah, and also I thought you had a great point that on that too, maybe you tweak it and keep everybody the same other than putting iHeart instead of Mitch.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. So I think we'll end it there. I think we had a solid stream. We've been on for about an hour and a half. Anybody you want to shout out before we wrap it up, Foxy?
Just Khalil Smalling, Knicks 100 game. Hope all is well. Again, Diamond Hodlings, Chris Rowe, all of you. Again, we appreciate El Servi. We appreciate all of your support. I can't tell you how much motivation we get from you guys, and that when you wake up on Sundays, it's within your being like, I'm going to watch the Giants win. I'm going to watch the Jets drive me crazy. And I'm going to watch Sports Vibe TV at 6:15. So thank you so much for your support. And again, shout out to all the truckers, We get a lot of comments from truckers that enjoy listening to Sports Vibe TV while they're going across America. Shout out to the vets. We appreciate your service. Thank you for your service. All you do, and first responders, especially with all the tragedies happening from the Hurricane Ian, etc. So we're putting out prayers for everybody out there.
Thank you for that, Foxy. Thank you guys for tuning in. Just to add or to piggyback on what Foxy said, we appreciate all your support. I mean, we do this, guys. We do this on a live stream for you guys because you appreciate the content. Honestly, I can give Foxy a call and just have a conversation behind the scenes and talk about the Knicks if I wanted to, but we're here because you guys appreciate the content. You let us know you appreciate the content, and you guys show up every Sunday. So I greatly appreciate it. I thank you guys for tuning in, and this is going to be the last stream before Knicks basketball is on the TV. So
Yippee!
Next live stream, we'll have some basketball to actually discuss, as opposed to us just speculating as to what's going to be out there on the court. So thank you guys once again for all the support. I'm Keith, host of Sports Vibes TV, and I'm out.
Love you.
Oh, and I'm Keith, and I'm also here with Stephen Fox, our NBA.
What's that guy's name?
Now we're out.
Love you, man.